Hello, and welcome to the Self-Care with Herbs segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I'm your host, Jess Bosker, naturopath, herbalist, and medicine maker. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Banjalang people, the traditional custodians of the land on which I live, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, come along and join me each month for beautiful conversations with guests from across the country, exploring ways we can weave plant medicine into our days to enrich our experience of self-care, sharing routines, rituals, and recipes for elevating mind, body, and spirit. This episode, I chat with Cath Lilburn, a herbalist with over 25 years of experience supporting her clients' physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Her work is grounded in a best of both worlds approach by combining traditional methods of healing with evidence-based medicine. Cath has completed studies in herbal medicine, nutritional and naturopathic medicine, integrative oncology, and most recently, evidence-based medicine at the University of Tasmania, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Medicine Management with honours in complementary medicine. Her final research paper was published and became a finalist for the Article of the Year in the Journal of the Naturopathic and Herbalist Association of Australia. Cath has extensive experience supporting women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer to empower them on a path of health and healing. More recently, she has also specialised in supporting women through the perimenopausal journey and beyond. She combines herbal medicine, nutritional medicine, and lifestyle tweaks to co-create individualised holistic healthcare plans with her patients. During our chat, we learn about Cath's journey from studying an economics degree to jumping ship to study herbal medicine under Dorothy Hall, to completing further study in medicine management where she dived into the use of medicinal mushrooms during breast cancer treatment. Cath talks about her work as a herbal medicine practitioner being a bit like a detective and really leaning into her listening skills to help clients understand what might work for them in terms of self-care. We agree it's never a one-size-fits-all approach, and it's important to think about all areas of our health, from physical to emotional to spiritual. We observe how when it comes to barriers to self-care, we can often see patterns arising. We find it can be common to see women who prioritise the care of others above themselves. They might be middle-aged and caring for teenage children while also navigating caring for older parents, stuck in that squeeze point where prioritising self-care can feel really difficult. I love Cath's advice around having firm boundaries and showing ourselves loving kindness first. If we look at caring for ourselves as a way to continue to show kindness and care to others sustainably, it can be easier to lean into self-care more consistently. Cath shares lots of wisdom around her work supporting women undergoing the transition through perimenopause, as well as those navigating a breast cancer diagnosis. Cath's infectious passion for the fungi kingdom shines through in this chat, from her mouth-watering mushroom ragu to her deep knowledge of reishi as a medicinal mushroom, leaving us feeling like we could all do with a little more fungi in our lives. Sometimes it can be really hard to know where to start with self-care. Often we feel like we don't have time. It can feel overwhelming to try and fit in one more thing. And even if we do know what works for us, it can be really hard to stay motivated and consistent. But if we care for others, we've probably seen how we can be a bit of a barometer for our loved ones. If we're feeling stressed, irritable, or like we're struggling, often this flows over into our families and loved ones. On the flip side, if we're feeling resilient, calm, and in control, doesn't the energy in those around us change for the better? Imagine creating this transformation for your loved ones. I'd love you to join me for my 6-week live online circle, Restore Your Nervous System, beginning Thursday, 5th of September. Learn how to weave nourishing seasonal whole foods and gentle herbal home remedies into your days to help you feel resilient and in control. Feel empowered to support your loved ones and confidently create lasting change for those around you. If you'd like to join our circle, you can use code SELFCARE for a 10% discount. You can find the link to book your spot in the show notes. Doors close in 4 days on Thursday the 29th of August. I'd really love to have you along. Hello, Cath, and welcome to the Self-Care with Herbs segment of the Elder Tree podcast.
Hi, Jess. Thanks for inviting me to join you today.
It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you today. I know that you're a very experienced practitioner. You've been practicing for more than 20 years, which leads me into my first question. I'd really like to know how your journey has unfolded over the past 20 years or so, but specifically, where did your relationship with plant medicine first begin?
Yeah, so it is a fairly circuitous route. I, back in the mid-1990s, was in Canberra studying at the ANU, and I was studying economics and international relations, which doesn't seem to be terribly well related to plant medicine. And I finished my degrees, and I was working in a clinic. My meditation teacher had a sort of integrative medical clinic, and I started working there in admin and supporting and helping him make some homeopathics and herbal medicines. And I went, what is this? This is so fascinating. What am I doing talking economics and politics when there's plant medicine? So I started working in the clinic, and then I met Fiona Stevens, who was a herbalist down in Cooma, and she had studied with Dorothy Hall. And so I said, maybe I need to go and see what this Dorothy Hall has to offer. So I studied with Dorothy starting in 1996 and graduated a couple of years later. And yeah, like anyone who studied with Dorothy Hall, it's infectious. You just turn up. She was a larger-than-life, inspirational, incredible woman. And so I was a young 25, 26-year-old Canberra girl, and she basically opened the door of plant medicine and, yeah, started my great love of herbs.
That's beautiful, Cath. So really your first entry was kind of having that exposure as your work in the admin side with your meditation teacher. Yeah, beautiful.
So I had like an apprentice style introduction, which I was very fortunate to have, I think. So I was learning and dealing with real people as well, because I was part of that practice. And I did have a teacher who was very encouraging of me and very supportive. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have necessarily jumped ship. You know, I might have ended up going and working overseas in foreign affairs or something. And here I was going, no, I'm going to focus on this because I feel like I could work with people face-to-face, one-on-one, make a difference in their life rather than necessarily. I was always concerned about the international aspect. You know, what difference can you make as one person in a big organisation relative to the work you can do one-on-one with people? You know, think globally but act locally, that kind of concept.
Yeah, beautiful. And tell us a little bit more about that study with Dorothy, like having come from the economic background to then diving into this really different field. Yeah. How did that land for you kind of in those early days?
I think early days I was overly academic. So I do have a bit of an academic bent. I love academia. And so it was actually a good reality check for me, because Dorothy was keep it real, keep your feet on the ground, treat a real person. Don't go and read a book about a herb and read about the qualities, you know, actually have real people and real personalities. You know, Dorothy was such an amazing teacher of personalities and understanding the person, treating the person, don't treat the disease. And I think sometimes academia can go so far into the disease that you lose sight of a real person. So I think Dorothy landed me on my feet and got me grounded in real people, and that was the strength of her training. It was so far. It was just so different to my uni study, but it was also just so refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah, and I felt like I could really imagine starting to treat real people. And so she prepared you for that, so that you weren't in your head and overthinking things all the time.
Yes.
You were understanding the person in front of you.
And tell us about how, as a herbalist of more than 20 years, how did that first sort of spark of connection with herbs unfold?
I think at first it was a slow burn. I think what happened was I made the decision to study with Dorothy, and I guess I had a lot of interest working in that clinic, because I was introduced to homeopathy, to Chinese medicine, to all these different modalities, and herbal medicine was one of them. So it was kind of a slow burn. I loved the concept of using herbs as person pictures, and it was a bit more abstract. But what's happened in the last, it's actually almost 30 years, I realised, because that was 1990 something. Anyway, 25 plus years something. What's happened is that my appreciation and love of herbal medicine has snowballed and grown over that time. It wasn't an initial fall hard. I fell hard with the concepts and the teachings of Dorothy, but the love of herbal medicine has absolutely just it's grown and it's deepened with my experiences of helping people. So I think that's how it's happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Witnessing the power as you work with people and seeing their health shift.
Of someone coming back after you've made up that tonic for them and they're like, I feel like myself again, or, you know, whatever the great, you know, the positives shift have been from that process. And
so prior to having exposure in the clinic where you're working with your meditation teacher, was herbal medicine ever kind of in the periphery, or was that kind of really the first sort of taste?
Yeah, so I came from a family that did use a lot of just conventional medicine. And so I've been the big convert in my family. I know when I made that decision to leave my economics and politics behind, my dad, who is an economist, looked at me like, what are you doing, Catherine? Like, what choices are you making here? He thought I was crazy, I think. My mum was like, oh, I don't know what she's up to. Where did this come from? I was the academic girl, you know. And they thought I'd really lost it, probably. But what's been fabulous is to see that even though they were not encouraging of it, they have grown to love it, because they know that they can come to me and ask me questions about their health issues, and I'm always making up herbs for my family now. You know, I know that it's hard. It's hard because you don't have as much objectivity when you put together a tonic for mum or dad, but I'll do it, no problem at all. They love it. They really love it. And my mum particularly, you know, really appreciates the support. You know, she's, what is she? 84. So yeah, she's gone through a lot of health issues, and she is going really well, and you know, she loves her herbs. So I think I've introduced that to my family.
And isn't that the ultimate compliment from just, whoa, what is she doing, to coming out to seek your support?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and at the same time that I'd made that choice, my husband, we've been together for that long, he also made the choice to study herbal medicine, and then he went on to also study medicine.
Oh, wow.
So he studied with Dorothy Hall and then did medicine. So we've been on that journey together, which has been lovely.
What a beautiful combination.
It's been great. I feel very fortunate. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, a big part of our chat today is around self-care. And before we dive into the real nitty-gritty, I'd really like to get a sense of generally what self-care means to you.
Look, it's a topic that I talk about with my patients on a hourly basis, you know, like not just a daily basis. I think anyone like yourself, Jess, any of us practitioners out there in face-to-face with real people know that it's a fundamental concept to well-being. And I think, you know, well-being is about your physical well-being. It's about your emotional well-being. It's about your spiritual well-being. It's about that holistic, big picture sense of putting all those bits together. And self-care is the filling up of that cup of well-being. whether you do it on a physical level, whether you do it on an emotional level, whether you do it on a more spiritual level, whatever that means to you, you know, whether it's a religious practice, whether it's a, you know, non-affiliated spiritual meditation practice, whatever it is, it's about filling up your cup, and it's about, you know, feeling like you've got all of those aspects. You can't ever get that properly filled in every capacity, but as far as you can, really filling up all of those different elements of your of you know, your health and well-being.
And when you put it that way, it's really clear to see that that can look very different for every different person and situation.
Absolutely. And it's not up to me to tell them what to do. So that's my thing in practice. I like to ask a lot of questions, do a lot of listening. And I learnt that in my early days, not to make assumptions. You've got to be so careful as a practitioner. You know, if I've got a Jehovah's Witness patient, or if I've got a you know, someone who's got a very strong religious faith, and if I bring up the concept of meditation, that can be a bit confronting. So it's really about listening to where they're at and asking those questions of them. You know, what actually fills up your cup? What lights your fire? You know, what is it that allows you to be in your flow?
I love that.
Yeah. So what you know, when you're doing it, you can switch off. And you're in a flow, and you know that you are replenishing your energy, whether that's physical, whether it's emotional, whatever. It's about finding those individual, either, you know, movement, exercise, as I said, if it's relaxation, finding those things that, if it's crochet, whatever it is that does it for that person. And that's the bit that I love about practice. It's like a detective process to go, you know, what is it about you? What's fundamentally important for you? It's like seeing that person. It's like I see you. What do you need for you? And sometimes people don't have people really listening and seeing them. They have, you know, if it's a close family member or a friend, they'll have assumptions. But if I don't know this person, I've got no presumed ideas. I don't have any agendas. I am just here to see them and to see where they're at, and to see where they want to get to. With their health and well-being.
I love hearing you say it's what lights their fire and gets them into flow. One of the catchphrases I've been seeing a lot lately is the concept of glimmers. And, you know, those little things that light that fire. They don't have to be big things, and focusing on those and getting into, allowing yourself to get into that flow and recognising that when you're in flow, that is something that's filling your cup.
Absolutely. And that concept of awe, you know, when you're in awe, it's like if you're in nature. And seeing that you are a small piece of this big planet. So being in awe, so that can sometimes put a lot of things into perspective as well.
And doesn't it kind of set off a cascade in the body being in that state? Being in a state of
cortisol levels fall down.
Feel things flowing and the endorphins flow and you want more of it.
And suddenly everything feels okay.
That's right. And all you've done is put yourself in a position where you're experiencing that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved hearing you say that, you know, your work is a lot like being a detective and it's all about listening. And I'm wondering, what whispers do you hear from your body, yourself, and what do you tend to pick up on when you are listening to practitioners in terms of when self-care is most needed?
Yeah, right. So do you mean, so for myself, what do I hear in my body?
Yeah, both.
And then what do I
let's
hear in my
explore
patient?
both. Yeah.
So on a personal level, for me, it would be things like my energy levels. If I'm just feeling a bit tired, and also feeling that need for space and for quiet. You know, I'm a bit of a mix of an introvert, extrovert. So I love people, but I do know that I need quiet. And so if I'm feeling a little bit off centre, a little bit just not my usual sparky self, it's like, okay, I just need to fill that cup up a little bit more. When I was younger, I had a lot of skin issues, a lot of eczema.
Okay.
And I had acne as a young adolescent, was given a lot of antibiotics, like a lot of adolescents were back in the 80s. So I think I had a lot of skin issues. And so I feel like the skin for me possibly is a bit of a barometer for me. I'll sometimes just get a little bit of dermatitis and it's like, oh, okay, what's going on there? Okay. Whereas when I was younger, it was a much bigger issue. So I can manage it a lot better now. In my patients, I think I see their symptoms, their physical symptoms, whether it's a migraine, whether it's, like psoriasis and dermatitis, irritable bowel syndrome, all of those, that concept Gabor Mate talks about, the body keeps a score, with trauma and things, but the body sends its whispers in terms of those signs and symptoms quite often. It's not to say that it's all about self-care, but I think if you're looking at a chronic health issue that is just recurring, then it's worthwhile exploring some of those underlying drivers that could be part of that pattern. Apart from what foods you're putting in your body and what toxins you might be exposed to and whether you've got an underlying viral issue, But I think self-care is part of a bigger picture plan for long-term management of those recurring health issues that, that I often see, people have like an Achilles heel. Everyone's got, it's like no one gets away with nothing. We've all got a little Achilles heel. We're all human.
Yes.
Yes. Whether it's a hereditary Achilles heel, whether it's, just something very individual to you, but it's about working on those Achilles heels and encouraging them to listen to what those signs are and what those symptoms are, which is what we do, isn't it, as holistic practitioners? Yeah.
Yes. Do you find a really big part of that is education around helping them realise that, it's not normal to be experiencing this all the time and we need to look at what's happening in your everyday that might be... I find so many clients, kind of when it is an Achilles heel, they've thought, oh, that's just who I am and that's just my thing and that I'm, I'd have to put up with that.
So, I see what you mean. So that some people, it's almost like they don't even question that. And then you start asking more questions and they're like, oh, yeah, that's true. That has been my thing that I have struggled with since I was, 7, 14, whatever. And so it's good for them to start. It's like a puzzle, isn't it? Putting the bits of the puzzle together. There's so many analogies once you've been in practice for a while, but also that one, you just start to develop all these visual things. But that picture, that puzzle, finding all the bits of the puzzle for that person and empowering them so that then they start to become a little bit of a health detective on their own body as well.
Absolutely.
So that they're not feeling like they're, totally kind of disempowered from understanding their health pictures.
And I think too, going back to you talking about your skin and how, obviously your lifestyle was different when it was worse, but you're also better now at recognising, oh, it's only little and I can see it, whereas maybe before you would have not realised as it was starting to flare. And I think helping people to recognise when they're starting to experience things, in a more triggered fashion and kind of looking at, what may be happening at that time.
Yes, absolutely. And look, for some people that's hard.
Yes.
I don't think everyone necessarily wants to go into that. It's like, I just want to get better. Yes, I don't want to talk, and I think understanding that not everyone who walks in your door is wanting to go there to that depth.
Yes.
So that's okay. Again, you meet a person where they're at.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a big part of experience and seeing the breadth of people walk through the door, isn't it?
Yeah. Experience is so helpful.
Yes. We had a little chat before we started recording about what some of the barriers might be to investing in daily self-care. And let's explore that now. We talked a little bit about some of the generational patterns that we might be seeing.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating. I think when we look at some of those barriers around self-care, obviously a big one is prioritising your needs. So, I mean, like a lot of practitioners, I do see a lot of women, mothers, middle-aged women. I don't only see that demographic, and I love variety. Like, I wouldn't want to pigeonhole myself as only one particular clientele. But I very commonly see it. It's like, I can see you. They come in and it's like, yeah, I see you where you're at. And they are often, these women, and I have been guilty of it at times for sure, thinking about everyone else's needs. And, it's such a beautiful thing to be a thoughtful, kind person. And I have valued that. It's one of my values in life. And I think I have very much encouraged my children, who are now young adults, to think about others and to be good and kind people. And I think that's something which is so important in society. But then there's this double-edged sword of, you want to be a good and kind person, but does that mean you should put everyone else's needs above your own? There's a fine line between saying, I will do this and I'll be that person, I'll be there for that person, I'll be there for that next person, and then getting to the end of the week going, God, I'm exhausted. That's a lot of giving. And I think obviously anyone in a sort of healing profession can find themselves in that situation, but anyone who's a mother, who's a parent, who's in a professional role where they're caring for others, nurses, a lot of those kind of stereotypically female type occupations. And I've seen that sometimes there's this like thing of the eldest daughter taking on that real responsibility for the family. And you see that when you've got the sandwich generation of maybe a 50-year-old woman who's got an ageing mother or ageing parent, and they've got teenage kids, and they're like, oh my God, here I am parenting, and then I'm looking after mum and doing this. And how do you prioritise your own needs when you're giving out so much to everyone else? And I think that there is a bit of a familial, maybe societal, I don't know, that valuing of female caretaking. And it can be a barrier to self-care. I know, though, that on a personal level, I can't do my help. I can't work and support others unless I do look after me. So I have to be very clear with boundaries. And sometimes those boundaries get a bit all blurry. But I try really hard, and, I'll put in place my own self-care practice, and I'll work within those realms, and I'll try very hard not to encroach those boundaries to the point of feeling very depleted. I'm quite clear that I can't do that work unless I fill my cup up.
I love that, Cath. And are those conversations that you have with your clients and your kids as well, in terms of how to kind of get around that, that societal model of the value around being a kind and good person, but also being able to care for yourself so that you can be that good and kind person genuinely?
Yeah, I often like that meditation practice, the loving kindness, the metta practice. And, when you do that, I often practice this one. I actually meditate most days. It's part of my self-care regime. And that loving kindness, I go back to that one quite often. And, the sequence is you send loving kindness to yourself first. Before you send it to whoever you are loving or having a challenge with, which is part of that process of diffusing any, energy around someone that you might be struggling with. The point is, loving kindness has to be sent to self first. Because unless you do that, how can you do the kindness of others?
Yes.
So you firstly, and the analogy of being on a plane, and a mother on a plane, she's got to get that oxygen on herself. If she puts it on her child and she's not oxygenating herself, then it's a bit pointless. So we have to oxygenate ourselves, and we have to send that loving kindness to ourselves. We have to have compassion for ourselves, and I think we have to be really kind and gentle with ourselves, because, again, as humans, we can really be judgy of ourselves, and I see that with my patients too. And so I quite often sort of say, be kind to yourself. And it's not as easy as that, but I think if you can start to have those conversations, they can be really important conversations.
And do you find with the women that you see who have that really ingrained sense of caring for everybody else and I come first, kind of framing it in that way of oxygen mask, you cannot do that. You cannot continue to do that if you're not caring for yourself. Does that kind of land with them?
It does.
Yeah.
I guess I intuitively try and find the right analogy for that person.
Yes, of course.
I guess after all this time, sometimes it does just happen. And you have that too, Jess, where the right words come out.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, where did that come from?
I think, though, that kind of making carers who are, maybe in that sandwich situation you were talking about where they are really, really squashed, helping them to understand that it's not sustainable if they're not looking after themselves. And that kind of lights a spark, what would happen in this situation if I couldn't keep doing this?
Exactly.
Think about all the dominoes that will fall if I had to stop. Yes.
And, if a mother is central in that family unit, if they are not putting on their oxygen mask, it's a collateral damage all round. So in a way, we owe it to ourselves and to everyone to look after ourselves. It's not a guilt thing. It's about this is for life. This is for the long haul. This is about being able to sustain you in life.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, for people who are in that situation where they're probably working full time as well as all of these additional caring roles, a big barrier is often time. So I think, helping them to understand that it doesn't have to be a big time commitment if you are consistently going, me first. Then,
Yeah, and I'm very mindful of that, because you don't want to make them feel guilty about or put pressure on them.
No.
And go, well, you need to look after yourself. And they're like, oh, my God, how am I going to fit that into my life? I haven't got time. And I completely get that. So it's finding, really etching out a little bit of space.
Yes.
If it is just 10 minutes on the beach walking, if it's even a 5-minute breathing exercise, whatever it is for them, 5 to 10 minutes is better than 0 minutes, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we are quick to dismiss those little moments as not having a big impact. But I've a very common theme throughout my conversations is the value of long-term consistency.
Definitely, Jess. Absolutely. And I talk about that with patients, as human beings, unless we do start and then establish a habit, we will always go back into the habit, whether it's a good habit or not. We are creatures of habit. So if you can start something and really just try and have some consistency, but find the time in your day and space where that suits you. If you're thinking I have to meditate in the morning, and you haven't got time, that's not going to be very helpful, is it? So for myself, I find I like to exercise in the morning, and then in my lunch break in between clients, I will meditate then. That's my time to replenish my energy. So that works for me. Yes. Someone else might find that in the evening, before bed, doing a nice wind down breathing, having a cup of chamomile tea, having an Epsom salt bath, whatever is their thing. If someone doesn't have a bathtub, don't tell them to go and have a bath at night. Find out. And if they hate baths, that's not going to be their thing. No. For others, it's it's bliss and a perfect self-care solution. So and I think finding what suits the person.
Yeah, and I think too it's about reminding them that, hey, you tried mornings, but mornings are busy for you and that didn't work. So where are some other pockets? And it might take, a week or more of finding the right pocket and getting that pocket to be consistent before you actually go, right, okay, I've made a habit of this.
Yeah. And you might have a little trial of it And then you kind of fall off the wagon, and then you go, oh, I'll try it again. And that's okay.
Yes.
Again, that's life, and that's
Yes.
human. And I think it's just as long as you are aware and you're starting to make some steps, that's the first step, isn't it?
And I think it all comes back to that kindness to self too, doesn't it? You know, we're so quick to go, oh, I didn't get it done in the mornings and I haven't been consistent and, oh, I can't do it, you know.
Yeah, there's no point giving yourself a hard time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we've started to touch a little bit on some of the routines and rituals that we can weave into our days for ongoing self-care. What are you spoke about how meditation is a really big one for you. You want to talk a little bit about that and any others that you might weave into your days?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I mentioned so I was introduced to meditation at uni when I was only about 21 or 22, so that's about 30 years ago. And I did have a fabulous teacher, and I had never done yoga, never done meditation. I was like, what is this stuff? This is profound. I found it a profound experience just diving into meditation. And so over the years, I've tried different things, and I've done 10-day Vipassana retreats and, yoga retreats. And I've always gone back to meditation. When my kids were smaller, I found it hard to weave that in. I really struggled to fit meditation into my life. Now that they're older, I'm back doing my meditation on a regular basis. And to me, it's like I'm missing some oxygen if I don't do it. I do use apps, and I'll use Insight Timer, the meditation app, because I find that it gives me so much variety, and I can search up. And I encourage patients often to use that as a way in, because you can really cater for your needs and, find a 5-minute breathing exercise, or, if you've got the luxury of time, you could do a 20 or 30-minute meditation, and you get guided, or you breathe, or you can use it for sleep meditation. There's so much potential there. So I love meditation. I love yoga. I enjoy Pilates. I like swimming. I like walking. I'm quite an active person, and I have to, that's why in the morning I'm an active person. I like to exercise. I like to walk, or in summer, I love swimming in the ocean pools. So that to me is heaven. Growing up in Canberra, when I moved to the coast in Newcastle, I thought, what the heck? How did I live? I'm a Piscean. How did I live for 26 years in Canberra, away from the ocean? I found Newcastle Ocean Bath, and it was like angels came out and gold lights, and I was magical. In heaven. So I love swimming. I've been a bit wussy. I haven't done as much winter swimming anyway. So yes, all of those things, I do fill my cup, and I feel like I need to. Yes.
What about in terms of herbal medicine in any form? How does it tend to make its way into your days in terms of helping with self-care?
On a personal level and with my patients?
Yeah. Let's start with you personally first.
Yeah, so I always have a tonic on the go, and it's part of my ritual. When I get out of bed, I'll have my herbal tonic on the go. I'll add different things depending on what's happening.
Yes.
I'll have, I like my, just my black tea in the morning, and I love my green tea with lunch, and I love chamomile tea at night. I'm a simple girl. And chamomile tea, it's just the best.
Yes, it's a beautiful ritual, but also really medicinal, isn't it?
Yeah. It feels like something's wrong. I travel with chamomile tea bags, and if I'm in a hotel and there's no chamomile tea, it's like, oh my God, there's something missing.
I think people forget they think of herbal tea as something that's a nice ritual or a nice, just a nice alternative to coffee or black tea, but they actually really don't have that switch that this is actually having a really positive impact on my health. If you're having a cup of chamomile tea every evening, that's a huge consistent way of getting herbal medicine into your life.
Yes, exactly. And like just, a cup of green tea, we know the health benefits with green tea. Incredible. There's just so much research on green tea. I should be having more than that one at lunchtime. I will sometimes have two. And I do now incorporate green tea extract into my dispensary for certain patients. Like say if I've got a cancer patient who I'm supporting on a preventative or post-oncology level, will add some green tea extract to get that real potent form of green tea into their formula. And with patients, my favourite thing to do is make an individual tonic, harks back to Dorothy Hall's days of, she said, think about 5 herbs, always include a nervine. Very basic stuff. And that often is in the back of my mind when I'm with someone. My brain's just starting to click in when I'm listening to them, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, a lemon balm would be nice here. Oh, skullcap, my goodness, skullcap's really well indicated here. And I'll start writing my little list of ingredients for their tonic, and putting together that individual formula is my favourite part of the practice. Yes. And Jess, when you get that formula and you look at it and you go, yes, I love that formula. It feels right for that person. Sometimes I might be going, there's something missing. It's not coming. It's just, and then just when you're standing in front of your herbs, putting together the formula, it's, I know what it is. I know what it is.
Yes.
Getting them to have a smell of the herbs sometimes, getting them to connect with the tinctures or the extracts. Explaining, like them being part of that process and helping almost with the selection of the herbs.
Yes.
Like pulling out a compendium and saying and showing them the herbs. It's like, this is what withania or ashwagandha looks like, and look at all these qualities, and really understanding what's going into their formula so that they're part of that, and they're not just taking a medicine for the sake of a medicine.
Yes.
They're part of the process of putting together a formula that's going to individually support their individual needs.
And I think when you work that way, Cath, I work very similarly. Like I'm constantly talking to the person as I'm selecting the herb, inviting them to have a smell, talking about what this particular herb might mean for them. Before they've even had a single drop, they've already started feeling the impact of that tonic. They do.
There's something a bit magical about it. I think it's the magic of herbal medicine. And we can go into all the academic understanding of the actions of a herb, but there's something deeper and more profound because it comes from nature. It has an energy. It has a whole plant energy to it. And that process of handing over a plant is more than a physical constituent that you're wanting. You're not just saying, here's your adrenal support. Yes. It's like, no, here's a plant that is providing physical, emotional, and often energetic properties. So, as a practitioner, we start developing relationships with our herbs and plants. Yes. Because we can see what happens when people take those plants and the feelings and the shifts that occur for them.
Yes. Yeah. How do you help people start to incorporate those tinctures as part of their rituals and routines? It's one of the biggest barriers to taking herbal medicine and seeing its impacts is taking it consistently. How do you help people with that?
I might be lucky, but most of my patients are really good at it. I think just explaining to them how this helps, why you do it, the magic of it, just setting them up for success. Yes. And saying, just have that bottle somewhere you're going to see it every morning. Yes. Don't put it in a cupboard and hope that you'll remember. But if you start to, again, if we go back to our habits, if you do that consistently for about 2 weeks, it will start to become a habit. So the majority of my patients are good like that. Some aren't. That's okay. Yes. And I am also mindful that not every single patient that walks through my door is going to get a herbal tincture combination. Yes. There are some patients that go, I've had bad experience with tinctures. I cannot stomach the taste of them or whatever. Yes. I'm not going to push that upon them. I do often say, look, I'm not a massive dose person. I'm not going to give you 8 meals of this. So let's start small. And that's a nice way to introduce a herb tonic into someone's regime. If you're not going to, bombard them with bitter tasting plants that they balk at. If you just gradually introduce it nice and slowly, that can be a nice way, to do it. And if someone really doesn't want to take a herb tonic, it's like, that's fine. We've got other options. No problem.
Yes.
We're lucky, aren't we, that we've got tablets and formulas, which I will use for certain patients. Food as medicine as well. We know how important nourishing food is. So talking about that with patients. And, sometimes herbal teas.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love your helping people to kind of overcome negative experiences they might have had with, perhaps having had a really strong dose of a herb and, maybe that was too strong for their constitution, or perhaps it was just the taste, and just kind of gradually coming around that with a beautiful, gentle dosing.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, that we don't have to shock people into good health. We don't have to hit them with a sledgehammer. Yes. Sometimes less is more. The little changes that you make. It's so tempting to think about all the things you could do to help someone, but if you can find just a couple of key things, that can be profound. And if you can introduce some herbs, if you've got someone there going, I love my liquid herbs, just give it to me, and you're like, okay, right, game on here, game on, let's do this. And they walk out so excited, and they come back and go, oh, I love that. They're fabulous, those ones. But if you've got someone a bit trepidatious, a little bit uncertain, it's okay, no problem. Let's just start on a drop dose.
Gently, yes.
And I often ask the question, are you a sensitive person? As in, have you had experiences with medicines where you only need one Panadol, you only need this, and they're like, oh, yes, I'm really sensitive. And I'm like, right, I'm not going to give you a mil dose. I'm going to give you drop dose, absolutely.
Yes.
So, again, meet the person with their needs. I feel like there's a spectrum around dosing as well.
I agree, for sure. I know that two areas that are really close to your heart are that transition through perimenopause and also breast cancer clients. And I know that both of those areas would be quite specific in terms of, what sorts of self-care practices those two populations are able or willing to invest in. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, look, I think both those client demographics, self-care is absolutely fundamental. I guess the perimenopausal story came out probably given that I'm at that point. And, as a practitioner, you go through phases where I treated so many kids when my kids were little, and now I'm a perimenopausal woman. It's like they're all coming in, and I did some talks on perimenopause locally, so all the people book in, and I think it's an important area to support women with. There's a lot, obviously, as we know, of information now about perimenopause, which was lacking even 5 years ago.
Yes.
There's been, quite a big shift in awareness of what perimenopause is. I really like Lara Bryden's work on this.
Yes.
She's been fabulous. And really explaining to women what is perimenopause. It's this period of time before menopause, which is 12 months after your last period. But what does that mean, And at the same time, not getting too obsessed by perimenopause. Some people will come in age 42 saying, I'm pretty sure I'm perimenopausal here. And I'm like, okay, tell me what's happening. Is your period still regular? Yes. Is there any menstrual signs? No. But I'm really stressed, so it must be perimenopause. I'm like, could it be stress? And they're like, oh. And so I think we can overcorrect sometimes when we focus on something.
Yes.
So I like supporting perimenopause, but also knowing that we've got to be careful not to assume anything, and we need to really try and understand what's relevant for that individual. But at least we have a lot more awareness now of what perimenopause might mean. and the time frame that occurs before menopause.
So if
That
somebody
second
comes in,
puberty.
yes, if somebody comes in who is clearly undergoing that transition, what sorts of, awareness around self-care and perhaps suggestions might you make for that person?
Find out what self-care means for them.
Yeah.
All the stuff we talked about.
Yes.
That conversation is the one I have with most of those women. Also working out, is it that they've got things like insomnia going on? So supporting, definitely prioritising and supporting that nervous system.
Yes.
And that's where herbs are so beautiful. And we know also that, magnesium and some of the amino acids, the taurine, glycine, that's lovely to support the nervous system and sleep quality.
Yes.
So self-care, absolutely,
Yes.
if they can manage, however much they can manage.
Yes.
And on a herbal medicine level, finding herbs that might support their nervous system. Often they are adrenally depleted, I would say.
Yes.
It's a common theme,
Yes.
Yes, we
Yes.
see that, don't we?
Yes.
Can't
very
go
common.
past a bit of withania. Can't go past. There's some favourites that you can pull out.
Yes.
But also
yes.
find what's individual for them.
And I think too, Cath, even though there is a lot of more information about perimenopause and what the time frame is, and what sorts of things you might expect to see in that framework, I think educating people that it is a time when it is a big change, and just providing that sense of confidence that yes, this happens to a lot of people. It is a big change, and letting them know that it's not something to be super worried about.
Let's not be further stressed by the concept of perimenopause. And look, for some women, it's not as big a deal.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not like everyone has the same experience.
No, that's right.
And there is a big conversation now about HRT, which is now the menopause hormonal therapies. And there's a place for that for some women, I think.
Yes.
That's a personal decision, and it can be used in conjunction with herbal medicine. So I'm not opposed to that in any way. So using, if they need some maybe body identical estrogen, the estrogel, something like that, and the body identical progesterone, prometrium, that can be used in conjunction with herbal medicine safely. And I've seen some patients have brilliant results with that, and other ones going, I tried it thinking it was going to be a miracle and it wasn't. So it's like, okay, so there's there's no one bullet for every single thing. It's a case by case.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you make about, because there is so much information, people are coming in thinking, I'm feeling a little shift, and now I'm going to start experiencing all these things they talk about. So there's that fear that comes with the extra information.
Yeah, so that's okay. I do love working in that area. And as you said, the other area that I do really enjoy supporting women who are on that breast cancer journey, whether they have been recently diagnosed, whether they are post-chemo, post-radio therapy, whatever. Again, breast cancer is different for each woman. It's a different staging that they have. My mother had breast cancer a bit later in life. She's absolutely fine now. And I think over the years I've been really, it must be an affinity I have with that particular cancer. I mean, I've supported lots of different cancer patients, but the breast cancer demographic, and when back in just before COVID, I enrolled in a degree down at Tasmania. It's the Bachelor of Medicine Management with honours in complementary medicine, and it was a research degree. So that academic brain of mine went, you've got some space in your life right now. Let's just go and do that degree, which was amazing. It was a very academic, scientific. It was through the pharmacy department. So it was a very academic, research-focused degree, and we looked at all the research around all of the lots of complementary medicines, and we deep dived into PubMed and did all our research. And at the end of that degree, we had a subject where we had to choose a topic, and we had a literature review that we had to choose a topic. And when you're given free rein, it's like, I could do anything. What am I going to do? It was a bit overwhelming.
Yes.
But I made a call and I thought, I love mushrooms. I'm going to look at medicinal mushrooms, and I'm going to also look at cancer, but I had a word limit. That was a massive undertaking. So I'm like, no, I've got to keep honing. So I went, I'm going to focus on reishi mushroom and I'm going to focus on breast cancer. And so that was the focus of my literature review. So I deep dived. It was right when we were in lockdown. It was perfect timing. It was like August 2021, I can remember it. I was sitting at the table. My son was finishing his HSC. I was trying to encourage him to study. I'm sitting there on my computer with paper everywhere and mushroom articles and breast cancer information. I deep dive like I didn't even come up for breath. And so I loved that. What I came out from that was a really big appreciation of what we can do to support breast cancer patients from a natural therapy perspective with very tailored support. And so reishi mushroom has some really good evidence, and there's been what's called a Cochrane review, which is the highest level of evidence-based medicine, which has supported the use of reishi mushroom for cancer support. So meaning that it helps people who are exhausted and maybe immunocompromised after oncology, and seeing the benefits of that. So, that's probably a circuitous way of me explaining that I love supporting women with breast cancer, and I like doing it on a one-on-one level, but having done that extra research, I feel like it really gave me some further appreciation of what we can do. And I've done some further study with some American naturopathic oncologists who are like Lisa Auschler. There's someone I met at a conference in Barcelona this year, Nasha Winters. I'm reading her book. And some of those naturopathic oncologists have a great understanding of the terrain around cancer, the individual drivers that we can understand and kind of tease apart and look at how to support that individual moving forward, and in conjunction with any oncology that they are, utilising or needing, you can really support them nicely with, just even a herb tonic where you're pulling out some reishi mushroom, some green tea, some turmeric extract, some withania, put it together, and that tonic is this beautiful support for their whole body. Chemo is targeting a particular, whether it's immunotherapy or the old style chemotherapy, it's a very different style of medicine. And so herbal medicine can sort of just support that person through that journey.
And I imagine I imagine it's a time that can become very medicalised.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it sounds like it would be beautiful to be encouraging those really simple practices about still caring for ourselves while undergoing that sort of treatment.
Absolutely. Because and those patients can be a bit traumatised because the diagnosis of cancer is considered a medical emergency, and everything is just bang. But game on. We've got to get in there. We've got to maybe surgically remove. We've got to start this, and it's a bit it's not a bit. It can be completely overwhelming, and to be in that medical system can be disempowering. I mean, it does very much depend on your experience with a oncologist or whoever's looking after you, but it's a lot to go through, and it's a lot to manage. And they might come to me 6 months down the track and say, I'm exhausted, or I'm shell shocked. I'm feeling a bit fried from the whole experience. So it can be a bit of a journey along that path of supporting them through that as well.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area to be able to provide that support in such a traumatic time.
Yeah, and I think that, again, if you've been in practice a while, you feel comfortable to be there with them. I think it can be a bit challenging if you're a newer practitioner. Cancer's a bit daunting.
Yes.
But but it's real. It's around, and I'm not afraid to support people in that space.
Beautiful. We've spoken a lot now about ways that we suggest self-care or ways that you implement it yourself. When you start to see the benefits of being consistent with practices, what sorts of things, changes in body, mind and spirit do you start to see in yourself and in others that you've helped?
Yeah, increased vigour, that's the word that comes to mind, that sense of just feeling like your energy on a physical, emotional and spiritual level has boosted.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing I would say.
I saw a beautiful quote that you shared from a client that someone had noticed that their life force had returned.
Oh, yeah, that was lovely. I had a patient who I got on for my follow-up. We did a Zoom call, I think, and she said that to me. She said, I feel like my life force is back. And I went, oh, wow, that's so cool. She goes, yeah, you can share that on your social media if you like. I went, yeah, I might actually. That's a really cool, it's just a cool analogy of what herbal medicine can do.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes,
that your life force, it's not just, oh, I'm able to get through my working day. It's like I actually feel that vigour and that life force and that, real underlying energy. Whether we call it chi, in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, we call it chi.
I love seeing that client walk in the door after you've first seen them and they're kind of like you're sort of sitting down in the chair all kind of, and they walk back and you're like, oh, I can see the sparkle about you.
Yeah, sparkle, just a bit of sparkle back.
Yes.
And that's them self-caring in a big sense, it's them recognizing, acknowledging that they would like some support, you providing that, you giving them direction, you giving them permission and encouraging them to do things to support themselves. Taking the herbs and seeing the magic of herbal medicine is part of that whole thing. It's almost like it's an interaction. It's a relationship that starts to develop with you and your clients that you're helping.
And isn't that motivating for them to hear other people recognise the change in them and then to actually experience that change in maybe that something that they can't express tangibly, but experiencing the feeling of enhanced life force and knowing that it's happened as a result of the things that you've been doing is so motivating to continue, right?
It is. Yes. And another analogy I use is that snowball effect. When you start to have one little shift, you then go, oh, I've got a bit of energy. Maybe I'll go and do that walk. And then you go and walk and then you go, wow, I actually feel better from doing that. Now I'm going to do this. And you start the snowball in a good way. Whereas when everything's fallen off the wagon and you're like, I don't even know where to start. When someone comes in and goes, I feel like I don't even know where to start. Help. I can't even do any, I can't even see what I need to start. And it's like, let's just start slow. And you never know what might happen is that will start to transpire and snowball in a really healing and supportive way.
Yes, and often those people are kind of experiencing the opposite, that snowed under effect of one thing being out and that kind of creating a cascade of negative impacts, and they just need that little shift from you to start to change the direction of that avalanche.
Correct, the avalanche. That's a good analogy. Yeah, it's absolutely.
It's beautiful to witness. Now, Cath, have you got a special recipe or ritual using plant medicine for self-care that you'd like to share, that perhaps you have invested in yourself in that way, or something that you share with clients?
So probably, as I've explained, my favourite would be making an individual herb tonic.
Yes,
I can't go past that.
Yes.
Because that's where I see the most profound impact. As I've also said, my use of herbal teas is a nice grounding basic thing that isn't challenging and it isn't expensive. No. If someone can't afford to use maybe a tincture or they just want to keep it really simple. Herbal teas are a good way to go, whether they use bags or whether they infuse and they source,
Yes.
you know, a lovely, beautiful blend, and it becomes a ritual to make that tea. And the other thing I haven't mentioned is, I mean, I'm a massive foodie. I love good food. So I think I do love nourishing our body with healthy food and healthy plants, in terms of things like, you know, like tasty vegetarian meals. I used to be vegetarian, but I do eat sort of more protein now as well. But I love making a beautiful, you know, nourishing vegetarian style meal. I think I said to you at the start of the interview, what was it? It was a miso mushroom ragu with baked polenta last night that went down pretty nicely. So to me, that's nourishing myself and my family and getting my family involved in the process. I had my son cutting up all the mushrooms and my husband doing whatever. And I was finishing an email. And I'm like, okay. And then I came along and, you know, so that's okay.
Yes.
But certainly nourishing foods would have to be. And we've got so many wonderful ways that we can access great recipes now online. You know, I've got a multitude of recipe books behind me.
Yes, I can see.
And some favourites. But if I'm thinking I've got some ingredients and I can't quite access which book to look at, we've got so many options.
Yes.
And I like to actually do a bit of a makeup and combine maybe 3 recipes. That's where my creative side comes out, you know, making beautiful meals.
Does that make its way into your work with clients too, Cath, like helping people to feel more nourished with what they're putting in their bodies?
Yeah, so I will obviously discuss what their daily routines are in terms of their meals and try and give them some guidelines. It's possibly an area where sometimes I run out of time to go into all the details, but if someone, you know, because you try and fit so much into a consultation, and it's hard sometimes to have all the specific information about, you know, a recipe, but I'll certainly offer recipe ideas if requested, or, you know, encourage, you know, just some basics like, you know, our Mediterranean style diet, you know, look at the visual of what that is.
Yes.
Look at the colour in there.
Yes.
You know, so sometimes I'll just show them some visuals if they're a visual person.
And that can be really powerful, like all that they need to see to just make some small shifts that have really big benefits.
Yeah. They may not have to make a mushroom ragu. They can... So, you know, if it's a piece of salmon, some broccoli, great. That's perfect.
Simple, but nourishing. Now, Cath, this last one's going to be tricky for you as a herbalist. I'm wondering what plant you have the deepest connection with and why that might be.
I found this one very hard to answer because as a herbalist, you feel like you're choosing your favourite child. And I find that very challenging. I think at certain times I've had favourites. You know, we go in and out of our certain favourites. I've had absolute love of chamomile, absolute love of lemon balm and licorice root and withania and, I mean, all of my herbs are in some ways favourites and at different times. But as I've alluded to throughout our conversation, I'm not going to choose a favourite plant. I'm going to choose a favourite kingdom, and that is the fungi kingdom. And that is mushrooms.
Yes.
And I think in practice, I have seen profound impact of medicinal mushrooms on people's health for immune-related issues, post-viral, chronic fatigue, glandular fever, cancer support. I've done that extra research, and that article got published through the NHAA on the reishi mushroom. So I've kind of done the theory around mushrooms, and I've seen them work in practice.
Yes.
And then I've gone and read lots of different books on fungi and mushrooms, and it's like they are incredible. Like these little, they're closer to animal than plant. So these mushrooms have this mycelium, which is this network of communication under the ground that we don't even see. And they've got this ability to thrive under all these challenging conditions. And those chemicals that they produce to thrive, when a human being consumes them, if it's an edible mushroom, you know, like a button mushroom, we're still going to get those chemicals like the polysaccharides, which can improve our natural killer cell activity, that sort of thing. But when you get ones like reishi or shiitake or turkey tail, they have those constituents on a huge, like a very high level. So you're going to get intense and very concentrated immune benefits from those extracts of those medicinal mushrooms, which have been used for often thousands of years. You know, there's a lineage in Chinese medicine with the use of reishi, and it's really so highly regarded. And there's a beautiful history of use, and often used in conjunction with orthodox oncology. It's just that within Australia and America more so, I think there's a little bit more hesitation around incorporating that, whereas in Asia often, and even Europe, there's a lot more openness to really complementing the use of oncology with some of these medicinal mushrooms, which are, I think, really potentially very powerful.
What sort of a form do you tend to use mushrooms in, Cath? Do you tend to
Any
put them
form.
in? Yeah, okay, tell us about some. Yeah.
So, well, obviously we've got the distinction between edible, just mushrooms that you can add to a ragu, and, you know, button mushrooms or brown mushrooms, porcini mushrooms, bit of shiitake. You can use all of those because they're all edible. But when you want to get the really concentrated, more medicinal ones that aren't, you can't just go out the backyard and find a reishi mushroom growing.
Yes.
It's a big, ugly red mushroom. It's really not very beautiful. So even though I've got a big connection with it, it's not for its beauty. It's for its medicinal impact. And so I will use reishi in a powdered form, in a capsule form. I have introduced reishi into my dispensary of liquid tinctures as well. So I will individually add reishi to a tonic. I will add shiitake. I will add lion's mane. I think lion's mane's super impressive, particularly with its sort of its impact on neurological conditions, brain, post-COVID neurological inflammation, ADHD. There's some really interesting uses with lion's mane. So I keep just trying to learn more and keep adding. You know, we know, don't we, Jess? The more we know, the more longer we've been in practice, we realise the less we know. You know, we've just got to keep. I really value ongoing education, ongoing reading. It's like probably if I could just study all week, that'd be perfect. But then I wouldn't be actually seeing
sharing all that you've learned. Do you ever use the medicinal mushrooms in food, Cath?
I guess so. If I had some, say, shiitake. Yeah, so shiitake is considered a medicinal and edible mushroom. Whereas turkey tail and reishi, no.
Yeah, okay.
You wouldn't be able to source them at the supermarket.
Yeah, but more as a powdered form, like you don't.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like adding them into hot drinks.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, but certainly there are options, aren't they? And there's quite a few companies now that make powdered mushrooms, and you can add them to soups and broths and
people even add them into goodie balls and things.
So absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. That's a good way to go.
It's kind of a crossover, isn't it? Like the medicinal mushroom becomes a food as medicine. Yeah,
food as medicine.
Yes.
Get the mushrooms in.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Cath. I think this has been such a broad-ranging conversation and so much of interest, and I've really appreciated you coming on to have a chat.
Thanks so much, Jess. It's been delightful and really enjoyed it. And I hope that your listeners enjoy our conversation and that they gain something from the sort of wandering conversation and topics that we've covered.
Yes, I think there's almost something for everybody here. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
I'm so glad you tuned into this episode of Self-Care with Herbs, a segment of the Elder Tree podcast. The Elder Tree is a non-profit dedicated to putting the medicine in the hands of the people through grassroots herbal education and earth skills, weaving a strong community of herbalists, healers and plant folk in Australia. If you'd like to dive a little deeper, you can head over to our Patreon, the Elder Tree Trove, to access special content from our podcast guests. I hope you found something in this episode that has inspired you to begin to lean into those plant allies and to experience your practice of self-care blossoming and blooming. I look forward to sharing more ways you can weave plant medicine into your days next month.